First story. 24-year marriage is in trouble. I'm sorry everyone, this is going to be a long one. Typed on my phone and I had a stroke, so forgive me for misspellings and grammar. I'm April of 9. I married the most beautiful, smart, amazing woman I could have ever asked for. Shortly after getting married, the physical part rapidly declined. Not just sex, but hugging, kissing, and even holding hands. I never brought it up as I saw it as I should be grateful for whatever physical interaction she lets me have. Sure, it got frustrating at times, but I accepted it and was okay with it. If that's what it took for me to have the privilege of spending each and every day of my life with her. We did have 2 kids who are now 14 and 11. Unfortunately, I got to where I pretty much stopped trying to intimate and physical contact as I got tired of being rejected or pushed away. I stopped going to bed and spent the last several years sleeping on the couch. I filled that missing element of pleasure with drinking too much beer. I made poor decisions for sure. I'm not a mean drinker by any stretch. I get happy, but I was still drinking way too much. June 29th was what I thought at the time was the worst day of my life. My wife proceeded to tell me that she cheated on me with another man. She says not full-on sex, but hugging, kissing, cuddling, etc. I was absolutely crushed and destroyed, but I didn't get angry with her. I was more concerned about comforting her for some reason, as she was upset thinking I was going to leave her. She said it happened because she had been so lonely, which I can sort of understand, but not to the point of cheating. I asked her point blank if I was what she wanted, and she confirmed emphatically, which was all I needed. I was really upset eternally. I couldn't stop thinking that I had accepted all those damn years of physical neglect, thinking that's what she wanted, and the thanks I get is that? I spent the next 10 days thinking about where we go from here to work to resolve what's wrong. I had more questions about what happened with the other guy and get a plan of action for us. Before I could discuss this with her, I had a stroke on July 9th and spent the next 3 weeks in the hospital recovering. Here's where all this gets even worse. About the second day in the hospital, mind you, I'm pretty much paralyzed on my left side at this point. She becomes very distant and angry with me. Starts berating me about my drinking and wouldn't let me touch her, not even hold her hand. I'm literally suffering and miserable, and really needed my wife's comfort and support, and she was just so cold and without any compassion. So I put on a good show for friends, families, nurses, and doctors while I was there. So did she, acting like this amazing wife who was going to care for her husband. Far forward 3 weeks and I come home on July 29th. I'm recovering well, able to walk with a walker, clean myself after going to the bathroom, etc. I'm still struggling but getting a little better each day. Sadly, the part of my brain that was affected also affects my emotions, so my lows can be crippling. A couple of days after coming home, I was having a rough moment and asked her for a hug. She leaned in, gave me the coldest hug I could have imagined. I tried to talk to her about everything and she proceeded to spend the next 3 hours railing on me about how horrible of a person, husband, father I am because I drank too much beer too often. That sent me into an emotional depression right then. And I pretty much shut down for the next month, battling moments of sobbing as the entire life I dedicated myself and sacrificed everything for was being taken from me. All alone, and had no one to just give me a hug and tell me everything was going to be okay. Especially from the one person I really needed it from. I am not this person who she's describing. Sure, I drank too much beer, but I'm not an angry drinker and want getting adjusted every night. So another fast forward to yesterday. She is going away for a couple of days this weekend to just have a couple of days by herself. Given what's happened, I am terrified she's going to spend the weekend with that guy or someone else. I told her that and she blew up at me, and somehow I was this evil person for even thinking that. So I wrote her a letter explaining our history of lack of physical contact and intimacy, which I accepted, blah blah, to have her only end up in another guy's arms. I also wrote how it has been torture for me dealing with a stroke without her emotional support, etc. She proceeded to tell me she feels nothing for anyone other than the two kids. Not me, not her parents and other family, nobody. She says she never had a desire for physical touch or intimacy. She says something is wrong with her, and she is going to go to therapy for it, which is great. I'm desperate for physical contact and intimacy, as it has been probably almost a year, and there is no option with my wife at this point for the foreseeable future. I need her, but as much as it almost sickens me, I've been looking up hookup sites and apps just to feel the attention from a woman. I don't ever actual file through on that, but that's where my head took me today. So I'm a complete mess. I'm hurting so bad from what she did before the stroke, and after. I'm totally confused at who she became afterwards, as it was this uncompassionate, cold, almost evil person I had never known previously. I'm not a suicidal person, but I'll admit that some really horrible and dark thoughts have entered my mind, like fucking down the whole bottles of blood pressure and blood glucose meds to just fade away. Then I get angry with myself. I even thought that being I have two kids. I'm so damn alone, broken mentally and physically, and trapped. Part of me wishes the stroke would have just taken me out. I've recovered a ton, waking pretty good without assistance, using my arm and hand pretty good, but still not cleared to drive or work. So I just sit here every day and swim through the must waters of my emotions. Broken, sad, angry at times. Sorry for the long post. I appreciate your time if you read it all. Update. Thanksgiving coming up. Just to give a lady of the land, the STBXW and I and our two kids are still living in the same house. I put a bed in the living room to sleep on so I didn't have to sleep next to her cheating ass. So I have no family or close friends anywhere near me, so I was anticipating being alone. The future ex-wife just told me I'm invited to her sister's house for Thanksgiving. I don't know what to do. Everything in me is screaming fuck no. But I have nowhere else to go, and it'd be nice spending it with the kids. I just really don't want to be around her or their family. Edit. I've decided I'm going to spend time with my kids in the morning, and then she can take them in the afternoon evening for dinner. Update. I miss my family tonight. So my STBXW took our two kids, 11 and 14, to her family for Thanksgiving. I went to a friend's place who was nice enough to have me join him and his father. I had a great time with them, and am thankful they invited me, as I was just going to stay home alone. Everything was fine until all three of us sat down to eat, and I just got overwhelmed realizing that my family wasn't with me for Thanksgiving for the first time in 30 years. Yes, I'm still calling her my family because I'm stupid. Anyway, I didn't expect it to hit me like a ton of bricks, and thankfully my buddy and his dad are super supportive. I still felt bad for totally breaking down at their dinner table. I'm still sitting here fighting off the emotions. Damn her for doing this to me and the kids. Update. She's out for the night. I'm all alone. Not fair. So in my post history you'll see I've had a rough time since late June. That includes me having a stroke, being paralyzed after my wife cheated. Blah blah blah. Nobody cares. I've been doing much better the last month, but today she packed a backpack and sent a text that she's got plans and will be back tomorrow afternoon. I'm destroyed right now, and I don't understand how I can feel such strong emotions for someone that has done me so wrong. Update. She continues to make me the bad guy here. As expected, my STBXW is not telling the truth to her family and who I thought were mutual friends. I am close friends with the guy who divorced my STBXW's sister like 20 years ago. He and I have been in a bowling league for many years. When she told me initially about her cheating, he was who I talked to about it, and he knew how upset I was over it. In my post history you'll see I had a stroke 10 days later. So last night I was hanging out with my team. I'm not quite ready to bowl yet. He tells me that his son 19 told him that his mom said that I had pushed my wife away after my stroke, and that was why we're divorcing. Yeah, okay. It couldn't possibly be how absolutely terrible she treated me while I was recovering from being paralyzed on my whole left side and non-stop cheating on me. These people are something else, man. They will say anything to not have to admit to themselves or others that they are actually truly shitty people. I'm not sure it is worth the energy to send letters to her family, to let them know what actually happened and how shitty of a person she actually is. Anyway, I just wanted to get that off my chest. Update. The emotional yo-yos are horrible. I hope this isn't something I have for the rest of my life. After the first few months of constant misery from her actions starting in June through end of September last year. Story in my history, I finally started having periods of time where I was able to be around friends and smile and laugh. There were good days and some not so good, and then out of nowhere I would be struck with several days of anxiety. The anxiety would subside and come back. I called it my yo-yo of emotions. Yesterday I went and looked at a home and was pretty excited about the prospect of living there. It would be perfect for me and my kids, it checks all the boxes. Today I am having panic attacks that have been crippling me all day. I don't know what set it off, but I'm pretty much right back in the state I was in back in October. Not totally hopeless, but the crushing anxiety and panic attacks. This is going to be a horrible existence if I have to deal with this the rest of my life. These people are selfish, horrible, evil people. Update. I'm trying, but failing. June 29th of last year, the love of my life told me she was hugging and kissing another dude. We've been married 24 years. At that point 10 days later I had a stroke, and I ended up completely paralyzed on the left side of my body. After 3 weeks in the hospital I come home struggling with paralysis, and she left me every day stuck on the couch while she left and did whatever she did. Then she went away for Labor Day weekend and spent it with the other dude. Now we're in the middle of a divorce and she's trying to take my kids from me. I don't think I would ever follow through with it, but I am sitting here almost 51 years old, alone. I'm struggling thinking of ways to end it all. I know she isn't worth the thought, but she, my kids, and our life was everything to me. I'm having issues finding ways to convince myself that I'm worth it to keep fighting. Update. It's been a little over a year since D-Day. June 29, 2023 was D-Day. 10 days later, July 9th, I had a stroke. 2 days later, I found myself 100% paralyzed on the left side of my body. In the coming weeks I was belittled, abused, and left all alone to recover. I almost died from being cheated on by my wife of 25 years. Here I am now, about 90% recovered, going through a divorce, and fighting for my kids. Use me as an inspiration to not let those subhuman cheaters take anything from you. Never stop fighting, never let them make you the reason for their actions. Live long and prosper. Second story. My GF of 3.5 years broke up with me in April. 2 month later, she married the woman she cheated on me with. I just found out. My ex, 24F, and I, 24F, dated for 3.5 years. We met while I was in college in Jacksonville, FL and she was in med school in Argentina. But living at home in Jax as it was COVID and she was doing school virtually. I was completely enamored when we first fell in love, and for a very long time I saw this as being a long-term relationship, potentially leading to marriage and a serious future together. This was also my first relationship ever, so I was very head over heels and all naive in love. Our relationship was in person for 1 year, and then she moved back to Argentina to continue school in person. At this point, our relationship transformed into a long-distance one, and we would see each other a few times a year. I think it's important to note here that she never came and visited me while we were long-distance. She always made the excuse that school was so much for her, and she didn't ever want to ask the money from her parents. She has been and still to this day is 100% completely financially dependent on them. I accepted this, though it always did hurt me a little. As I am not bathing in money as a young woman in my 20s living off my own coin, and had to spend $1,200 plus on flights to Buenos Aires every time I went. I visited 5 times in 2 years. Then she'd come home to her family for holidays, and I would drive to see her in Jax when this happened. Eventually in 2023 I decided to continue my education and went to the UK to get my master's. This was a difficult decision because it meant I was moving away from Florida, was living at home in the Panhandle at this point, still close enough to Jax to be close to her family and be there when she visited home. But it was best for my future. I really didn't want to lose her, and we stayed together through it all, although there were rough bits. We talked every single day and slept on the phone together, started making serious future plans for marriage. In December of 2023, I get a ticket to visit her in Jax. I'm there from December 23 January 3rd. I leave to get back to the UK, and she's supposed to visit me here for a whole month during her summer break from school, Southern Hemisphere, different seasons. She was meant to come here just 2 weeks after I left Jax. But this would never happen. She told me just days after I left that her mental health was bad, and coming to the UK would be a negative disruption for her. This hurt me a lot, but it was difficult to feel this painfully, as I did understand the reason. If your mental health is bad, by all means, drop everything to the wayside to take care of that. But on the other hand, she had never visited me in our 3-year relationship. At this point, I eventually got over it, but this was not pleasant and hurt me past how I had ever been hurt before. Due to the mental health stuff, she decides to take a sabbatical from school for a year to stay at home in Jax and work on herself. She had been diagnosed with bipolar disorder and also was struggling with an addiction to alcohol. I am supportive of this decision to stay home, as I want her to be healthy and happy. And med school is a lot of stress on a person. She starts making plans for this year. Now that she's not in school, she makes a plan to go to Nepal in late March to get yoga instructor certified, makes a trip to Seattle for a mountain hiking expedition in July, and makes plans for September to go to Vietnam with her family. I'm concerned with how much all of this is on her psyche, but she is adamant that all of this will help her every time I voice a concern. Late March of 2024 rolls around and it's almost time for her to go to Nepal. She tells me about a coffee shop we used to go to together all the time and how she's spending a lot of time there and meeting a lot of the baristas. I actually have a very close friend who works there. We will call her Emily, 24F, and is friends with my ex. BC of that connection, my ex tells me that she has met a new person who works there. Let's call her Jane, 23F, and they have hung out a few times just platonically. But I get a feeling, you just know when that feeling comes and something isn't right. But I decide to ignore it because at this point, I have no reason to doubt her faithfulness in our relationship. It's officially the day for Nepal, and she can't do it. She tells me that she was crying her eyes out on the day of the trip, and she couldn't get on the plane. This was shocking to me, as Nepal seemed so important to her. But I understood and told her I was there for her. It's a big trip and is very overwhelming. However, the day afterwards, she tells me that she needs time to be alone in her own head due to all of the mental turmoil she was in. I am trying to be as supportive as I possibly can be from far away and not try to push her to talk with me and lean on me and tell her I'll give her the time she asks for the weekend, but she takes a whole week. After this week of next to nothing from her, I finally start pushing her more seriously for some explanations. Then she casually tells me over text, I just don't see a future for us right now. Honestly, I don't know if I can keep fighting for this relationship. I'm shocked and extremely upset, not only at the ramifications of her words, but that fact that she essentially ghosted me for a whole week and then decided to break up over a text message. It's just also seemingly out of left field. I tell her that she needs to call, and we do this properly, and she agrees. We make plans to talk the next day, but she delays it, and then we had to wait until the day after that to finally have a conversation. That's when she tells me that she has interest in someone else. Finally, the truth, I ask if it is Jane as I had suspected, and she confirms it, but not before telling me that nothing physical has happened between them, and she doesn't know anything about Jane's feelings. For her context, days before this, Jane herself just got out of a 2-year-long relationship with her partner. Didn't see this as a red flag at the time, but, yeah, I'm naive, I know. I tell her I don't want to talk or be friends, and we don't talk for a month. This was incredibly difficult for me. This was April 6th. Honestly, it was brutal to be broken up with in this way, especially with another person involved. I was crying every day and in a really dark place. A month later, she texts me out of the blue saying I miss you, and I regret it, although that month was hard and I managed to heal a lot in that time. I am sad to say that these words eventually pulled me back and we started talking again. A few days later, she goes to Nepal for real. This time she is there for 3 weeks, and we talk every day of these 3 weeks, under the guise of friendship. During this time she tells me a lot of things. She tells me that her and Jane are seeing each other but it is not serious, and they are not officially dating. She says that Jane is not very compatible with her, and after getting to know her better, she doesn't see a future with her, and she tells me throughout all of this that she misses me and regrets leaving me. I am unsure how to take all of this, as I suspect she is lying and her and Jane are more serious than she is letting on. I tell her that I'm not just an option to her and wanted to be her friend, due to the history of love shared between us, but I didn't want to be involved in any potential cheating situation. Despite the lingering feelings I definitely still had. She gets back home after Nepal and it's essentially radio silence. I realize I have been used as a device for comfort while she was far away from home. This hurts me a lot as I feel like I had done so much to heal, and then allowed her to get back in my life to prey on my love for her. So I'm starting over from ground zero. She doesn't reach out and neither do I. Pretty shortly after that, I finally get back in touch with Emily and I learned a lot of things from the conversations that followed, namely, that my ex was cheating on me. That entire week she was taking time to be alone after the first attempt to go to Nepal. She was sleeping over at Jane's house, and actively telling people in the coffee shop that they were together. Emily found out about this and asked my ex what was going on at the coffee shop. One day my ex told her that I don't know about any of this, and not to tell me because she was planning on telling me herself. Emily believed this, and didn't tell me. I can't even describe the pain that this revelation caused me. Once again, I'm hit like a truck, and I am devastated by this situation. And the lies my ex had said, that nothing physical happened, that they weren't even ever officially dating, just lies. I consider blocking her, and then also consider sending her a long message saying that I know everything, but I decide to do none of that and keep everything to myself. Then, 2 days later, June 13th, my ex texts me completely unprovoked. She says I miss you and I feel like such an idiot for losing you. At this point, I really couldn't hold my tongue and told her what I found out. It took her a week to respond. She sent me a message that truthfully sounded like chat, but wrote it being like, I regret my actions and I am sorry and I adore you always. I told her that her apology didn't sound very genuine, and she took no accountability, but I do appreciate the sentiment. This is the last time I have ever spoken with her. I thought that this would be it and I would be done learning about things after the breakup and could finally heal without any interruptions. But no, oh no, that wasn't it. A few hours ago, Emily texts me saying she needs to tell me something and wants to call. I of course called her very shortly thereafter, and learned the most disturbing news up to this point. I muted my ex's posts on Instagram to avoid seeing them, but she had apparently posted a photo of Jane in a white outfit, a sleeveless blazer and pants, with a ring on her finger in what appears to be a courthouse. Emily saw this and immediately recognized it as potentially being an elopement photo, and yep, that's exactly what it was. Marriage licenses are public records, so she immediately searched online and there it was. A request for marriage filed on June 6, 2024, with a marriage date of June 20, 2024. She was immediately disturbed at this revelation and, knowing that I don't know about this, debated what to do with this information 2 hours after posting that photo. My ex took it down from her Instagram, presumably to hide the elopement. It does cause one to wonder why she ever posted it in the first place, but IDKB my guest in trying to piece that decision together. Emily texted my ex the next day and said, "Hey, I know about the marriage and I really think that my name has a right to know. I think you should tell her BC you owe her that much, and if you don't tell her, I won't." My ex proceeds to respond with, "I don't want to tell her, I'm not going to tell her. And frankly I don't want her to know about this, as this is a really intimate thing we have only shared with a very small number of close friends." Yeah, so Emily decides to tell me about all of this. I am truly still in shock. There's really no words. First of all, I know for a fact that her family does not know about this, knowing her parents, who are both very rational and protective human beings. They would be beside themselves if they ever found out about this. Second of all, if we check on the timeline, she had filed for marriage in the 6th of June, and a week later sent me the message saying how much she misses me, and feels like an idiot for letting me go, which is, it is so irrational and disgangdroned I can't even wrap my head around it. And third, to know that she had absolutely no intention of telling me any of this, not thinking that she owed me that scrap of decency, to tell me she filed for marriage 2 months after our 3.5-year relationship ended, and after all the messages expressing regret about it. I don't know what to make of any of this, and I don't know how to feel. Since learning this, I have made a bunch of phone calls, some to close friends and family, and some to mutual friends that my ex and share, just trying to piece it all together in my mind, and share the lament and disbelief I am feeling. And unfortunately I learned more when I visited her in Jackson December of 2023. Just once day after I left, she went on a date with one of her exes and made out with her the entire time I was there, visiting her instead of my own family over Christmas. She was texting that ex and calling her beautiful, and asking if she wanted to make a reservation. She told that ex that her and I had been broken up for a while. I also pieced together that she cheated on me with 2 other people while she was in Argentina for roughly the last 2 years of our relationship. Basically, I have been able to connect a lot of dots and understand the true extent of the deception and mind games. I mean, as far as I'm aware now, it just seems like every time I talk to someone new, I learn a new detail about this person I once shared my life and love with, and it is making me terrified to keep on digging. I never expected any of this. No one does. The feelings range from extreme pain to humor at how insane all of this is to complete and utter terror. As I realize that I never knew this person one bit, I thought I loved a good person, and to find out that she has lied to this extent, so selfishly and callously, for so long, and then seriously decided to elope with the person she left me for not 2 months after our breakup, is unbearable. Truthfully, I feel like this is a manic episode, because I can't piece any of it together. Why these decisions were made, I can't find any logical reason. I am so lost right now, and I feel like my life is falling apart in front of my eyes. I don't know how to deal with any of this, and I can't help but have those dark moments where I blame myself for not seeing the signs sooner. I have a lot of urges right now. Urges to text her mom a screenshot of the marriage license, which I now have a copy of, as a way to get her family involved in what could quite literally be a psychotic break. Her mom still texts me in response to my Insta stories, by the way. I have urges to send screenshots to the new wife. God, that's so hard for me to even say. Of all the times my ex told me she misses me and regrets leaving me for her as a way to let her know what has gone on behind her back and save her from this clearly doomed marriage. But I know that these things would partly come from spite and could very genuinely lead to a complete nosedive. with a real possibility that my ex either hurts herself or others, and I don't want to contribute to any of this toxicity or cause a potentially dangerous situation. I just don't know what to do or where to go from here. And any help or wisdom or guidance at all would mean the world to me. I have tried so hard to rationalize her behavior, but have been unable to at this point. I just want to heal. But I feel so empty and alone and afraid from everything that I have learned and really need some help. If you have read all of the way up to this point, IDK, how else to say that you're a champion? This is a doozy and a long story, and thank you for sticking around to the end. My GF broke things off with me out of left field and pursued a relationship with someone else. 2 months later they're married, and I found out she cheated on me with 4 different people. New wife included. I'm so lost ATM and need some advice. Third story. Did my GF now wife cheat 16 years ago? It happened in 2008 during the recession. I know it was a long time ago, but it still bothers me from time to time. I guess I need your opinion as members of this sub kind of makes your experts in this kind of situation. I will try to give you all the information and context to the best of my memory. Me and my GFK at that time worked at the same company but in different cities 2 hours apart. We were your typical mid-20s young professionals in a serious happy relationship. She worked with my godmother in the same location. My godmother is the one who got me the job. She is BFF with my mom. We are very close and I trusted her 100%. At around the downturn of the economy circa 2008, there were company-wide changes. 2 of my workmates was moved to my GF's location and I got sent overseas for 2 years during the process of offshoring jobs. After 1 year abroad, I received an email from my friend. This guy was old, close to retirement, and he is a bully and likes rumors. Kind of like a male Karen if you may. He is good to me though. I hang out at his house to barbecue, met his wife, kids. His email says, "Are you still with V?" I answered yes, and why. He said he heard that K is in a relationship with a guy from the same department as those 2 guys who moved to her location. I of course panicked. I called my GF right away. She of course denied it. Called my godmother and she said she never heard anything but will investigate. Called one of the guys who got transferred. This guy is a very introverted person. No friends, just do its job and go home. He said he has no idea, but if he has, he will keep it to himself as he does not want to be dragged into the mess. The other guy who got transferred left the company 5 months earlier. My friend says the rumor is my GF has a plan of moving out from her parents and moving in with this guy as his apartment is walking distance from the office. My GF denied everything. Her excuse was there are 2 other Ks in her big department. My godmother confirmed that there were really 3 of them with the same first name. Godmother also told me to trust my GF and that she is a good girl and that she never heard anything from her vines. My friend refused to go into detail, but just said that's all he's heard, and as a good friend he's warning me. Godmother trusted my GF 100%. Here's the thing, after a month, my GF surprised me with a visit. I was happy of course, but she was different. She was aggressive sexually. She gave me a BJ right after arriving at my place. She is writing me cowgirl and reverse cowgirl. A big contrast as before she was basically what you call a starfish. Juice, lie there and do nothing. Don't know how to ride, and I have to beg for BJS. When I ask her why the change, she said she was asking her 2 female friends how to be a good lover. Now these 2 friends of hers at that time were both divorced and are having flings. They even invited my GF once to go with them with their partners in Europe. I just said go if you want to, but I think it's going to be an orgy trip. She said EWW, and that she was not really considering it and was just resting me. We are happily married now with 2 teens, but it still bothers my mind sometimes, especially if I read Reddit subs. So did she cheat? Do I need therapy? If I brought up the topic, she gets annoyed and tells me I am the only one since we started dating, and that she loves her elderly parent. but swears on their lives that she did not do it. They're still alive and she's still a maniac in bed. So our infidelity, do you think it happened or I am crazy and needs therapy? Fourth story. Business trip affair. I, 54M, am married to a woman, 54F, who is now a recovering alcoholic. In 2010 she started traveling monthly for business with a group of people who all drank heavily together. On one of these trips in 2011 she was propositioned by her boss for a promotion. They started having an affair by meeting during this monthly trip in the hotel. She would begin drinking on her way down and get into the hotel and meet up with everyone for dinner and more drinks after. At the end of the night her and her boss would go to her room for sex. It went on like this for a year. There was one time they had a threesome with another female co-worker. After receiving her promotion in 2012 she called off the affair but had to continue traveling. We had 3 young children, and I had been asking her to try to find a position without travel, because it was ruining our marriage. Now with her promotion she was traveling twice a month, getting drunk at the bar and room alone. After 6 months or so in late 2012, her new boss asked her up to his room, and she began a new affair for the next 4 years. She told me she had feelings for this man who was nicer. The company was going through a reorganization, and he was going to take a package, and they decided to end the affair in 2016. She also left the company and tells me she blocked him and has not had any contact since. During this period her alcoholism was terrible and she wouldn't get help. At home she would get blackout drunk every time we went out with friends. She was also a mean drunk and missed many of the kids' functions, and if she did go many times she was drunk. The affair ended in 2016 when they both left the company. She kept speaking with him for a few months then ended it and blocked him. In 2017, she started getting some help and finally went to rehab in 2023 and again in March and then sober living, and has been sober since until the day she told me. This Friday she called me when I was at work and told me she was drinking. That is when she told me she had to be completely honest with me and tell me everything. My head is spinning, and I am pissed at myself for not realizing it and incredibly angry with her. I always felt something happened but I thought she may have been taken advantage of once, while blackout drunk. Never this. We are seeing counselors but I don't know what I should be doing when we are together. I don't know what else I should be asking about or looking for. She has been crying all the time and telling me how much she loves me and would do anything to stay with me. I just can't get my arms around this.